Walmart is America's largest private employer with nearly 2.5 million workers, and its CEO, Doug McMillon, just gave an AI wake-up call. He says it's very clear that AI is going to change literally every job. Maybe there's a job in the world that AI won't change, but I haven't thought of it. More automation in warehouses, more AI chatbots providing customer service. Some jobs might disappear, others may emerge. One thing is certain. C-suites across the country are anticipating a monumental shift. Okay, you revealed yourself as Mr. Ingenuity,
yes,
Innovation.
Sir.
You don't short anything.
Right.
AI.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't say it's going to kill every job. He said it's going to change every job.
And that's the important distinction.
Some go away, some add. What do you make of that?
Change is very different from destroy or eradicate. I agree with him that AI not only will change, but is changing. And we could come up with all kinds of examples, whether anecdotally or professionally. I'll give you one that I thought was fascinating. The Wall Street Journal asked lawyers to review contracts. And on average, it takes a good lawyer about an hour and a half to go through a contract. Well, they put, 15 contracts through AI, and in 45 seconds, they had the same response back from the computer. Now, that doesn't mean that you lose all the lawyers. You still need a lawyer to go through and then
finish it.
Yeah, that's right. You're a lawyer. So it's not as though all those jobs certainly don't exist, but you may not meet as many as you thought. So I think he's right. There are going to be changes, and I think the onus is on all of us to figure out how to use AI efficiently, effectively, make our own businesses better. And then, if I don't have kids, but if I did and they were in high school, I might encourage them to start thinking a little outside the box. Where there is AI, there are data centers, and where there are data centers, you need electricians, master electricians that can actually physically wire the stuff, or HVAC specialists, right? Because you got to cool this stuff down. There are new jobs that will be created. Robot took my job, right? You go in the factory. Well, guess what? There are people who need to maintain robots, even build. So I just think we all have to be thoughtful about how to adapt. In the same way, the car put the horse business out of business, right?
Well, so you talk about
didn't make it worse.
You talk about adaptation, and Jackie, I know you can review 15 contracts a second, so you're okay. But Accenture CEO Julie Sweet, she said, "Look, we are exiting employees who can't be retrained for this."
Yeah.
So I appreciate thoughtful adaptation, but this seems like speedy, get smart real quick on how to use this stuff, and that could be tricky.
And it leaves opportunity for the up-and-comers, for people who are just deciding what they want to do now, if they're at that age, if they're either in school or are thinking about trade schools or different things, programs that they could do without going to a four-year college. They have a lot of opportunity. I actually asked AI about the kind of jobs AI will create, and AI said there'll be more training jobs in training people how to use AI, that's managing the robots. Yeah. This was interesting, the ethics category of it, people to manage that, because once this goes on a grander scale, you can imagine some of the problems that are going to rise, and then the actual implementation of it. To me, Adam, though, what you're talking about is change for the better, but the rate of change is going to matter, how quickly those jobs are eliminated and then replaced. And then at the end of it all, when you sort of look at it in a lump sum, when most of it is fleshed out, apples to apples, was it equal, or are there less jobs created than were eliminated? I covered energy, and we're going to talk about it in the next block, about coal. You had a lot of people in the energy industry who were displaced because this is what they were trained to do. They were trained to do it a certain way, and as we scaled back on certain technologies, they just couldn't adapt and keep up with it anymore. And so you're going to have a piece of that. That's going to be complete elimination of not being able to retrain employees that were in the workforce.
You put a finger on, I think, the key point is at the end of this, when it's all sorted out, how many jobs are lost and created? Are we net higher in number of jobs? If we look historically at technological innovations, from the internet to the steam engine to anyone you pick, there is a near-term diminishment in jobs, but then a long-term creation in that. So I don't think this is going to be any different from any other technological innovation trend. It's following the pattern. A lot of times it's Joseph Schumpeter's creative destruction, right? It's classic. Everyone freaks out and panics. There is some loss, but this is really a job remix. It's not job losses. I see it as people having to learn how to do different skills, and it's going to be quick and it's going to be fast, and that's what's going to characterize this change versus other ones. You're not going to have a choice but to adapt. Otherwise, it's a survival instinct. And this is what I think is great about the American economy. It's dynamic. It can adjust quickly. People can learn new skills fast, and AI is going to enable that.
Let me throw another ingredient in the soup here. There's about 4.5 million industrial robots in the world. About 2 million of those are in China. So you got AI, and then you got the robots kind of working off the AI, doing some of these manual labor jobs. So you can't forget about that when it comes to what changes, what gets destroyed, job picture, Dagan.
It's not the robots. This is happening so rapidly in ways that people can't see it. If you talk to individuals, particularly who work in tech, they are adapting and coming up with ways to streamline just their workflow that is just mind-boggling. And if you work at a company that isn't beginning or actively using, say, MCP servers, using agents or their large language models, and I will explain, then your company's already behind. And I'm talking about where we work right now. You know, what is, because I was talking to a tech executive last week and about the spend in servers, in the, like the data centers. And the person said, yeah, that spending is probably out of whack by 2 orders of magnitude, 3 orders of magnitude. But what tech and engineering shops are doing with this technology more and more is explosive and just innovative. MCP servers, it stands for Model Context Protocol. And this is a way to get your agents or your large language model, like just use Claude as an example. Your Claude Code. Claude Code is an agent that you use to code. You can hook up your Claude Code to an MCP server that will allow, it gives your Claude Code, your agent, full functionality to perform a variety of tasks. For example, it'll do crash analysis. You can hook it up to MCP Notion. You can hook it up to integrate it with GitHub. And these are essentially apps or adapters to your large language model or your agent. And it just amplifies the productivity and the functionality of these agents, agentic AI. And it is transformative, and it's happening rapidly. MCP, the Model Context Protocol, is a functionality developed by Anthropic, which is the developer of Claude. But again, if your company is not using this, you're already behind.
Yeah, this is the next leg of it, right? We trained the models, and now it's called inference. You're putting the models and letting it use new inputs, new data, and make decisions in real time based upon how it's been trained. It's the next leg of this. I think there's a huge opportunity here.
Well, you've all convinced me I need to hit the books. I got a lot to learn in this
Keyboard.
world.
It's not books, it's just usage.
I know.
You know, it's just
That's the joke. I'm still thinking about
in.
books. I'm still thinking about books.
Well, me too.
I got to
I'm worse than you are. I print stuff out and put it in my purse to read it on the way home.
I'm gonna
That's
scan it
worse
real
than a
quick.
book.
Do you guys use highlighters? Because I use highlighters.
Dagan does.
I love highlighters.
Okay.
Maybe
Get your books,
maybe
get your
I bought,
models.
Maybe I bought some new Sharpies at the CVS over the weekend.
Sharpies will
Maybe.
survive in this world. I promise you that. Coming up,